Absolutely. So because this is a youth dialogue, we allow the youth to interact with the candidates a lot. So I'll pass around the microphones. Those who have questions to ask, anybody who has a question to ask, you kindly mention your name, where you're coming from, and then you can ask your question to the candidates. Yes, okay. There's a young man behind who wants to ask a question. You want to ask a question? Go ahead.
Hello.
Kindly stand so we can see you properly. You mention your name,
Okay,
and then
hello.
you can go ahead with your question.
I'm Michael-Angello from the University of
Bring your
Damascus.
please, may I ask the question? We'll see you very well. Yes, thank you.
Right. Hello, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
I'm Michael-Angello from the University of Ghana School of Education and Leadership and the UG Department of English. I like the fact that you mentioned that if we're going to have the kind of change we want to see, it should be attitudinal and not just relying on...
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Michael, can you speak up a bit?
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
Right. I like the fact that you mentioned that if we want to see real change in our country, it should be attitudinal with our people and not just with the leadership. But you as well mentioned a sort of, you both mentioned modifying our education system. And I'd agree. I think a lot of educational professionals would agree that there is some change that needs to be done. You talk about, Dr. Ayariga, talk about implementing skill training in our education process. So it's not only intellectual. I want to know what exactly you would do. Are you planning on revamping or modifying, changing everything such that it's not only intellectual training, but there's real skills training and adding of the soft skills that are going to be needed? Or is it just changing everything so it's based on industry work in the informal sector? I want to know what exactly the plans are for modifying our educational system. This is to both of you. Thank you.
Okay, any other question? Right.
I have to get a paper for us to write.
Okay, so Nimo is from the Africa Education Watch. Okay, he's behind you. He raised his hand first. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Since my colleague mentioned about reforming the educational system to skills training, I would want to go on that tangent to ask my very first question. At the heart of Ghana's 56% youth employment is graduate unemployment. And we are now producing about 100,000 tertiary graduates annually, with only 10% of them likely to secure jobs each year after national service. For instance, presently, out of the over 50,300 students enrolled in technical universities, 65% are pursuing humanities, with 36% reading applied science and engineering. Less than 1% of them are reading agriculture. So my question is, what will you do to strengthen efficiency and relevance of technical and vocational education and training in the country so we can curb unemployment?
Okay. So I'd like you to respond to these two questions, then we can continue with the questions. Mr. Ayariga, 2 minutes to respond.
2 minutes, wow. For the two of them or just one person?
Well, you have a minute each for
All right, let me just go straight to the point. You see, initially when I spoke about education, I said we need to change our curriculum of education to suit into the 21st century data system. We need a data-driven economy. A data-driven economy gives us the information of what we intend to roll out in the next 10 years, 5 years, 20 years. What we intend to achieve, which sector of the economy do we want to produce? Our educational system should focus on the kind of things we want to do. So in changing the educational sector or reforming the educational sector, we will look at the basis. How many doctors do we need in the next 10 years? How many engineers do we need in the next 10 years? How many nurses do we need? So using the national data system and our national development plan, we'll figure out all these and reform it to fit into our society, not the society of others. It is what we need to transform, how we intend to grow, that we must match our educational sector with our needs and wants. And so technical training is important, vocational training is important, science is important, engineers are important. Every sector will be targeted and focused directly and indirectly on training what we need for our educational sector. It goes on to my good friend who's talking about vocational education. Look, over the years, what have we produced, the graduates? You only roam around with your certificates looking for work. Are you creative? Are you innovative? No. We are writing exams and passing, and we call ourselves graduates. What we've graduated from business school, graduated from science school, what do? Even toothpick we import. Cameras that kids in the US are assembling, we cannot produce. Watches that small boys in Japan are manufacturing, we buy. So what is the relevance of our education and our skills and our talent? We are wasting it just for nothing to say, I am educated. So what? If you're educated, what can you produce? What can you manufacture? We have left the relevance and the focus of education linking out to industrial manufacturing and producing. We don't produce anything, nothing. So clearly, Hassan Ayariga would not want an educated citizen who just roam around with certificates. I want an educated situation, students and society that produce what we want and consume what we produce. We will not read the American books and tell the African story. We will write the African books and tell the African story.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayariga. A follow-up? Okay, go ahead.
I'm more interested in the how, because obviously the what is important, but the how we're going to go about it, the blueprint you're going to follow, because it is our own country and we obviously have...
Because right now, we are training and training and training nothing. We are only educating. So in training, first of all, we will produce, manufacture the kind of systems we need. For instance, if I draw up a plan and say, look, young men, I want to have our educational system manufacture, our students be able to produce televisions. So we should link it on how we should produce television. I want to find out how we will stop buying mobile phones. So let's get the technical team to begin to see how we can assemble it. So that is the how. We need to figure out what we want first in order to produce what we have outlined.
Okay.
I hope your question is answered.
Next person. Yes, behind you. Yes. Can we pass him the microphone? Oh, okay. You have a question. Right. Kindly go ahead.